Hello there, it's Jan here from JB Crafts. Thank you for joining me today. I'm back with another tutorial for my Technique Tuesday collection today. And this is actually one, believe it or not, in all the years I've been crafting, I hadn't come across this before. And I was having a little look through some of the social media options and just having a little sort of stroll through things and came across this. There's lots of people have had a go at this. And I thought, I need to try this. Now, it's called the Retiform technique. Now, again, I didn't even know what that meant, so I had to have a little investigate and see what it meant. And for those of you that are on the same page as me that haven't come across it before, it just means a collection of sort of intersecting lines. So the description, the definition said almost like net-like. So I sort of had a look at how these were done and watched a couple of tutorials, and this is what I came up with, and it's really simple to achieve. It allows you to use maybe smaller stamps that you might have in your stash if you've got a variety of smaller stamps. Now, my last video that went up last Saturday actually used this set that I'd bought free with a magazine. It was with the let me just double check. It was the Creative Stamping magazine, and I've had it a little while now. It was issue 133, and the stamps are from our Lou Collins, her textures range, and I just fell in love with these. And my last tutorial that went up on Saturday was using this beautiful typewriter set for my daughter's birthday card, and I thought, you know what, there's a lot of stamps on here. I have some plans for the butterflies, but there's a lot of things on here that would fit the bill, so I'm going to use a selection off here. So any stamp range that you have, you know, that's got all these little elements, I'm going to use this one with the dandelion head. I'm going to use the little script stamp, the leaves, these little dots, some of the cogs, all sorts of bits and pieces off here in order to create this design. Now, I used a green for the sample. I'm going to change the colour today just so that we can see what it looks like in a different colour. It's exactly the same technique. The stamps may not be placed in exactly the same place, but you're going to get the idea of the technique. So the original one that I did here was actually done with my Distress Oxides in Bundled Sage, and I've just used my smaller blending brushes for this just to get into those smaller areas. These are from Craft Stash, and I'm actually going to use one of those today for the different colour. And I've just chosen that lovely deep velvet, Victorian velvet, which is like a rose pink, and I've got a designated brush for that one. So nice little soft blending brushes. As I say, these are available from Craft Stash, so I thought I'd treat myself to some smaller ones because I've only got the big round ones that I normally use. So just to get set up then, I'm going to bring my mat onto here just to protect the surface of the desk there. I'm going to pop this to one side. I haven't done any extra decoration on this one. I just wanted to concentrate on this technique on the front and have a go. So the piece on the front, well, if I bring all the pieces in for the card, it's actually a shop bought 7x5 card. And then I've created a very thin black matte layer, and we're just going to use some smooth white cardstock for the front here that we're going to add that technique to. So the black piece is 6 5/8 by 4 5/8, and my piece that I'm going to put on top is 6.5 by 4.5. So nice easy measurements today. Pop that one to one side for a bit. I don't need the card blank just yet. And we're going to work on the front of that smooth white cardstock. Now, there's no sort of right and wrong way of doing this. It's simply a case of, you know, basically chopping up your piece into different sections. If you don't feel confident with that, you could always sort of pop a few little tiny faint pencil lines in where, or even, you know, sort of on a scrap piece, just line up where you want it to go. Now, the very first thing I wanted to do was pop my sentiment in the corner, and I've used that little happy birthday sentiment, which was the same one that I used in conjunction with the typewriter, and I wanted this to go down here in the corner. Now I'm going to do this one slightly different today. I actually added the colour on here and some of the stamps around it, but I'm going to keep this one more plain so that that sentiment stands out today, just to see what it looks like, and then add the stamping in the other sections. So what you'll need is your chosen ink, and you can do this pretty much with any inks. Those of you that follow me know that my choice is always the Distress Oxides. They're my favourite inks out there. And you'll need a scrap of cardstock. Now this is actually thinner than the 300 GSM that I'm working on, purely because I don't want to create too much of a ledge here between the cardstock and the one that I'm going to ink onto. Photocopy paper I think would be a little bit thin, so this is just probably, I would say, about 120 GSM. It's a piece of scrap card that I've got out of my stash that I'm going to use here. And the first one that I'm going to line up is I want to get this in place here to leave this bottom right hand corner to pop my sentiment in there. So the first one that I'm going to do is actually across the corner. So let's take the lid off there. We've got that Victorian velvet. I have got no idea where my little stamping buddy is. Let me just have a quick rummage under all these sheets of paper and see if it is. Yes, it is. I thought it would be up there above the ink pads. Let's just pop that in there because it does give it a little bit of stability and stops it roaming around the desk there. And we're going to take the pink one. Now I am going to just flip this round because I'm right-handed. I find it easier to rotate my piece of design. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at the angle that I want here. So bearing in mind I want to fit this stamp in the corner. I'm going to move the stamp for now. I don't want that one to sort of get in the way. And then I'm just going to turn it so that I've got my hand in a position that's comfortable. Load up the brush there, tap off any excess, and I'm going to work from the scrap card onto my piece that I've chosen. And you just want a very light touch. You want some of that ink to come off the edge, and it doesn't look as if you're doing much at first. But when we actually move this scrap card, you'll see that we've created a very faint definition of that pink ink. So just run it along the edge. I'm coming off the scrap card onto that white cardstock there. And all we're going to do is create ourselves a line. And whereas it doesn't look much when you're doing it, you get that gorgeous effect. And then it's just a case of deciding where you're going to bisect the rest of the design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and create myself a section in this top corner here. I want a decent size section for the stamp that I want to put in there. And I'm going to do exactly the same again, but I'm not going to come into this bottom section down here. I'm going to stop where that line that we've already created crosses. So again, exactly the same. Just popping that ink down. And again, you can do this as light or as dark as you wish. I'm just going to keep it reasonably light and a little bit heavier in the corners just to define where that starts and finishes. And again, we've created our second piece. And then I'm going to go across, right across the middle, I think, like so, about there. And again, I'm going to come from this point that I've created here and start off the edge of the scrap again, just so that I don't get any blotchiness on the finished piece. If I go straight on here, I'm going to get a little round impression from the tool. So I just start on the scrap and then push it. It's as if you're pushing that ink across the edge there. And like I said, as much or as little as you want to put down. So I want this to be visible. The pink is slightly lighter than the green that we used earlier. And then we're creating those lines that kind of intersect. And then you could decide how you want to chop things up. So I'm going to go from a little bit lower down there and create myself a section at the end there. So again, exactly the same. Load up the brush, and I want to make sure that that doesn't overlap the piece that I've just done. So again, I've just lined up those points, and I'm going to stop when I get to that bisecting line again there. So I tend to come from both ends first just to get that depth of colour in the corners, and then just brush into that design to get that ink laid down in place. So you can see we're building up those different marks now, and then I'm just going to split this last one as well. So I'm following roughly what I did on the other design. So just going to create a small area at this end here. Again, starting on that scrap, and I'm going to stop. Same again when those lines cross, like so. And I think I'm happy with how that's looking. So that's my sections, and I've pretty much followed what we've got here. I've got the triangle at the bottom, the wider piece here. I've ended up with a long triangle in the middle, and then 1, 2, 3 more sections as I have in this one. So I'm going to follow this roughly as a guide, but you can split up your paper in any way whatsoever. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue with some of the ink around the outside of most of the design. Now this time I'm going to leave this bottom square light. I don't want to put any in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to hold it down, and then I'm going to come in from the edge, and I just want to make sure that all around the edge of the card has got some of that lovely colour as well. So we're going to go from that corner, and I just want to extend it into each of those spaces now. Now I'm not going to come all the way into the middle. I want it to be lighter in that middle area, but I am just going to dust over to take a bit of that stark white away. So I've sort of created myself a little border, and you can see now the difference between these and that stark white of the card. So I'm going to continue going round and do the same on this top edge here. So all the way around the external edge, apart from that one where I'm going to put my sentiment. Now, when I did the green one, I did it on the bottom as well, but I just want to try today and see what it looks like with that bottom edge white, and then we'll see which one we like better. So again, I'm going to bring that ink where I've created these lines. I went up with the ink. I just want to bring a little bit into each of those areas, like I said, to take away some of that really stark white card there. So again, just really lightly bringing it in from the edges of those lines, but there's a definite definition here between what I'm doing on this side and the depth of what we created originally with those that piece of scrap card, and work my way round. So again, tend to start on the corners because I don't mind it being a little bit deeper in the corner edges there. And then again, where this line created, I'm going to push it into that section as well. And then finally, I'm going to cover up the section that I did at the beginning. And I'm just going to bring it down this edge here. And then again, I want to just bring a little bit into that final section. So just lightly, I'm not going to go as heavy as what I did on the original pattern. And just dust over it again. And don't worry if there's any smudgy bits, because when we've done the stamping on it, you'll be amazed how it all sort of pushes into the background. And then I'm going to leave this bit just with that piece of shading. I'm going to leave this edge white this time, just as a little bit of an experiment. So I think I'm happy with that for my background. So we'll put that one away. I need to put that little stamp up there so that I don't lose it. Have a little bit of a clean up and put that to one side. I'm just going to get rid of some of this surplus ink now because I don't want to end up covered in it. Just get that off the mat there. Now, over stamping, is going to be the next part. So we're going to overstamp into these areas. Now you will need something to mask off the area, and I've just gone for the old sticky notes. These are as good as anything. They've got a sticky edge on them, and it means that I can actually mask out the areas that I want to work in. So I'm going to bring those into play. I'm going to leave, in fact, no, I've finished with the mat. We'll move the mat out of the way, because what I want to do now is bring in my stamping mat, my well-loved stamping mat. I'm going to use a stamping mat and the rocker blocks this time rather than the stamp press, just because it gives me, you know, a little bit more movement rather than keep repositioning the stamp every few minutes. So I've got a couple of sizes in my rocker blocks depending on the stamp size that I'm going to use, and that's what we're going to use to stamp with. Now you can overstamp in exactly the same ink, but what I actually did was have a look through my quick dry inks, and on the green one that I did originally, I overstamped with the quick dry ink from Spectrum Noir in Frosted Jade, which teamed up really nicely with the Bundled Sage, and it's just a fraction off a match, which gives you that sort of definition with the stamping. So again, I had a look through, and I didn't have a pink one that was the right tone to go with my Victorian velvet. I don't know what I've got going off outside today. I do apologise if you can hear any of that. I don't know whether somebody's just won something. There was a really loud cheer then outside. My apologies. So yeah, going back to this one, I didn't have a pink that matched. So I thought, right, we'll try it with a contrast this time. So I've just gone for a very, very light grey. And the reason I picked the quick dry inks is because we're going to be doing a lot of stamping and moving this piece around. It does what it says on the tin. It dries very quickly, and it means that I'm not going to get any smudging going on. So we're going to need that one as well. But the very first thing I want to do is just get some areas masked off. So I'm just going to take some of these sticky notes away, and I'm going to work up here in this one first. So I'm going to come up to the line that we created here. Okay, let me just move that little sentiment before I lose it. And then I'm going to take a second one, and I have got a stash of these, I must admit, so I'm not worried about using up a few of them. And then I'm going to break off and mask this area. So I'm just running with the line that we created originally. I want to work in this space here. And the first stamp that I'm going to take is this gorgeous floral off the bottom here. So we'll take that one off first, and I'm going to pop this one to fill the majority of that particular area there. And I think for this one I'm going to use that larger rocker block, a little bit big for the smaller one. I'm going to ink this up with my quick dry ink again now, and it's a really light grey, this one, and I just thought the grey and pink would look really nice. So we'll pop that one on there, and I'm just going to bring this now into that gap. So I want it to sort of come out from the bottom and lay that down into that gap there. So you can see it's very, very pale, but I think it's a nice contrast with the pink. Get rid of that one, and I'm just going to pop these to one side and pop them back on the carrier sheet in due course. And then I think for the next part, I love this little text stamp here. It's like a little corner which I'm going to use up here. But just before I do that, I just want to add a bit in this corner. Now, because it's made to fit a left corner here, obviously it's not going to work over this side. So I'm going to use it without a block. And all I'm going to do is just literally on my stamp pad, just pick up a bit of ink, and I just want a touch of it in there and in that corner there. So I'm stamping onto the masking paper here, and it just fills in a little bit of that area. That's all I want for that bit here. And then we can release the sticky notes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring them across to this section now. So again, I'm going to line it up with that line that we created. I'm going to bring this one and line it up here. And I'm not too worried about the little tiny bit at the edge because I'm not going that far with the stamping. But the first thing I'm going to do is pop this in this corner. I want to have that on the corner there, and I think that one will probably fit, yeah, on my smaller block now. So again, ink it up with the ink, and we're just going to position this one just so that it goes slightly off the edge there, so that I've got that design across the edge, and that's all I want on that one. So again, give it a wipe, and I will pop all my stamps back when I've finished. And then I'm going to use the little butterfly. I'm going to follow the design that I did earlier. So I'm going to take that little butterfly, and again, that's a really diddy one, so we can pop that on the block, and a bit of ink. And it's just a case of working your way around now and remembering to stamp off the edge of the design. It doesn't all want to be focused in the gap. It's quite important that you go outside the parameters of the design. So it's going off the outside edge, and it's going over where the next section would be. And again, I'm just going to pop 2 or 3 of those in there, I think, to fill my space. And I'm just twisting the stamp as I go so that I've got a different angle with the butterflies. And again, when we take the masks off, that's now contained within that section. So the next one I'm going to do is along here, and I might need another sticky note for this one, so we'll bring and extend that one. I'm going to need a couple of those, I think, there, just to cover up what we've already done. And this is why the quick dry ink was invaluable. If you don't have a quick dry ink for this, then just, you know, sort of take your time. Don't rush this. It needs to be able to dry underneath before you start masking it off with other pieces of paper. So this one's going to just fit on there, I think, like so. And I've now created the space in that middle area. So I can put the butterfly away now, and this time I'm going to go with, now on this one I actually put the cogs and the flowers in here, but I think it got a little bit busy, so I think I'm just going to concentrate on the flowers in this one this time. I think the cogs were a bit too much for my liking, so I'm just going to take some of those little flowers. I've got a small one there in one size, and then there is a little diddy one up here. And I might put one of these nice little swirls in as well this time, just to change it up a little bit. So just to take those out at the ready. So we'll go with the big one first. And again, I'm sticking with the same ink. And I'm just going to pop these. And again, I'm going to go sort of off the edge deliberately so that it's coming out of that design again. I want one sort of fairly central. And don't overthink it. Don't really overthink this part. It just wants to look pleasing inside each of those areas that you've created. So again, I'm going to bring one down here, and then I may come back to it, but for now I'm going to pop the little one on here as well. And again, we're just going to fill in some of the gaps like so. And then I can add those swirls in if I do have any areas that I think needs a bit more detail. So again, I want one in there and a final one down there. And then I'm going to take that little swirl, and we can just use that to fill in any areas that I think need a bit more detail. So if you're using the rocker blocks, just be careful not to get the heel of it here with ink on. So again, just in between here we'll have a bit of that, and then I want to bring that in from the side as well here, and then I think a little bit along this edge. So again, we'll go in like so, and I think I'm happy with that this time. I think it got a bit overcrowded on the original one. So that's that section done. So again, we're going to lift the masks off. I managed to get some ink down there already. I don't know, that must have been on my sticky note, I think. Okay, and then we need to mask off. We'll go for this bottom area now. So again, just lining it up with those original lines that we created. I'm going to come across this part here, and then we want to go across that top edge. So it's just working your way round in whatever order you decide. And this time I'm going to grab that little dandelion head. Very, very cute. Pop that on there, and we're going to do the same with that one. So again, I want it coming in from different angles, so twisting and turning as we stamp. We'll have one coming in from that side. You can see now why I switched to the rocker blocks rather than the stamping platform here. There's definitely something going on outside my house. I'm not sure what it is because I can't see from here, so apologies if you can hear all the chatting and the squealing. Something's I don't know what's happened. And then there is a really nice, just a little abstract set of like little dots, like little ink blots, which is great if you do have any spaces. This one's a really cute one for just filling in those areas where you've got a little bit of space that needs that bit of something. And I'm just going to pop that in some of the gaps there, and maybe a little bit off that edge. That's all I need in that one. So we'll give that one a clean. And we've just got that last section, I believe, to do now, because I'm going to leave the bottom bit white on this one. So again, I'm just going to realign my pieces of sticky note there. So 1, 2, and that should do that one. That's fine. And then in here, I had the little frondy leaf in this bit. So again, that'll fit on my small block. And sometimes I just go straight to the ink pad. If it's only a little tiny stamp, I can get away with going straight to the ink pad. So I want one that's fairly central. And then I'm going to rotate again so that I've got them coming in from the edge and at different angles. We'll turn it round and we'll come back this way. And I think there's probably room for one more in that edge there. Come right off the edge, and just a final little tiny bit at the bottom there, and I'm happy with that one. Okay, so I think that's probably it for the quick dry ink. We'll release that out now, and you can see where we've got with it. I actually quite like this white, so I'm going to do my sentiment in there now. So we've got the happy birthday, which will just fit in there nicely. And I want a nice contrast on that so that that stands out. So I'm going to bring in my black ink. So this is VersaFine Clair in Nocturne. And it's a really nice black, solid black. Now the reason I left it well last is because this one is a pigment ink and it doesn't dry anywhere near as quick as what the quick dry ink does. So I didn't want to risk smudging it with all the pieces of sticky note that I was using. So I'm just going to aim for the gap there, take it nice and steady and allow that ink to transfer. And we've got our stamped piece there, and that's why I chose the black for the contrast for the matte layer. So move those out of the way, and we've got our design. I quite like the contrasting colour actually. If I bring this one back in, this was sort of monochrome with the green over the green, but I actually quite like the grey over the pink there. It just makes it stand out a little bit more than what it already did. So let's move that one out of the way. It's a very, very simple design. So I've got my couple of matte layers there. I'm just going to pop those together. And I'll have you off there. So the black one is just slightly smaller than the card blank. I like the offset borders. So this one is about 3/8 of an inch smaller than the rest of the card. And I'm just going to position that one so that I've got a nice even border all the way around there. and then commit to that one. And then I just need to be wary of that that ink at the bottom, the black ink. But we're going to do the same here with this one. And I'm just using my all-purpose glue here. This is perfect for just popping these mats and layers together. And I'm going to pop that one on the top, and it's just left a tiny 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. And that's the beauty of having that wet ink, is means that you can actually position it and wriggle it into place. So I'm just going to be very wary of that black ink again. I don't want to smudge it. Press that down, and I think we will add a few little extra beads onto here. I did these just at the bottom here on this one, and I picked the green. I think on this one I'm actually going to go for the black. I think the black is actually going to emphasize what's going on, and it will also help to cover up my little smudge that I managed to get there. So I've got a Dreamies collection here of pearls. Absolutely love these, and I tend to go for one big one, a couple of medium ones, and a couple of the small ones there. Not really any pattern. You know that I like to sort of cascade them across the sentiment. So all I'm going to do is decide whereabouts I want these. I'm going to go with the bigger one, a middle one, and a small one. And then I'm going to see if I can actually be very sort of careful with that one and bring it into, cover that little smudge up. Wouldn't normally have gone quite so high up with that, but I think it will work. So again, I'm just going to bring in that quick grab glue, use my tool, my little pickup tool, my sticky pickup tool, pop a little dab of glue, because these are not self-adhesive ones. I can probably come a little bit lower with that one. There we go. And then up to this side, just drawing your eye through that sentiment there. And I think the black on this one is probably the right call, because it's going to pick up that black ink and then the black matte layer underneath. So I'm quite happy with that. And that one is disguising the fact that there was a little bit of a smudge under there. So that's my finished design there. And again, it was called the Retiform technique. Purely means those set of bisecting lines. Now I've got that white corner on that one, which is what I wanted to try today, and I do quite like that. This time on the original one I actually did the same, excuse me, the same treatment. I'd created the line first, but I actually came around the edge with the green and I added some stamps in there, and I think it just got a bit busy. I actually quite like this, as if this is peeking out from underneath here with that little white corner. So again, you know, whichever you prefer. You could, I was sat thinking, there's very little embellishment on there, Jan. Does it want something? And I had to stop myself from sticking, you know, a flower or something on it, because I think that would detract from the actual idea of that Retiform design. What you could possibly do is, I've got the options here to maybe go with some little flower centers on it if you wanted. Same with this one, I've used the flower again, so I could go with some little pink flower centers on there and possibly one in that large one. But again, you know, it's optional. That's all sort of finishing touches. You can see how that design came together. So I hope you've enjoyed it. It was brand new to me. I've been crafting for a very, very long time, like in excess of 20 years now. And I had honestly never seen this done before. So, you know, there's always something new to learn. Thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, the minute that I saw that it was inks and stamps, then I had to have a go, because that's my love. That's my where I started crafting. And still to this day, I love playing with the inks and the stamps. So yeah, let me know in the comments below which was your favourite. Did you have a better preference for the colourways? Did you like the open white corner, or do you prefer it all inked in together? And I'll be back very, very soon with another tutorial for you. But for now, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye now.